Hello and a very warm welcome to the Late Breaking F1 podcast presented by Harry Eade, Sam Sage and me, Ben Hocking. No race coming up this weekend, but we're back for another midweek episode. Sam, it is midweek. Asda Pizza?
No, I had a Thai curry for dinner. I don't actually know if it was Thai, might be Malaysian. I'm not sure. I didn't cook it. It was very tasty. If you don't know, folks, I'm not on a diet. I'm trying to be healthier. So the Asda Pizza at the moment is having a little holiday. I'm letting someone else in the shops pick it up and enjoy it. And I'm over here having a lot of broccoli and a lot of fruit.
Goodness me. God, share prices in Asda will be plummeting as we speak on that news.
I know. There's a bag of whirly bars in the cupboard. They've been touched for 2 weeks.
The people of Asda, let us write in. If you listen to us and you work in Asda, let us know. Because A, that's excellent with the amount of references you make. But B, let us know if times are tough.
Times are tough. Sorry, I'll come back. I promise. I'm still shopping at Asda, just not for those things.
Pizza sales down 80%. Nightmare.
Italian sobbing.
What have we got to talk about that isn't pizza related? F1 Higher or Lower makes an appearance later on today. A little bit on the Miami Grand Prix and its very impressive TV audience number. Andrea Stella calling Kevin Magnussen's actions across the weekend unacceptable. But we're going to start with Williams, Logan Sargeant, and Andrea Kimi Antonelli. So, firstly, Mercedes has requested to the FIA that Andrea Kimi Antonelli, their junior driver, be permitted to drive in F1 before his 18th birthday in August. Naturally, this has sparked conversation on what the immediate future holds, particularly in relation to Logan Sargeant's seat at Williams. James Vowles was asked about the possibility of a mid-season switch and had the following to say. I haven't spoken to Kimi since Abu Dhabi last year. I know nothing about what's going on at Mercedes tests right now. We are looking, as everyone else is, for what we want on our driver lineup for next year. And of course, we have our own young driver program. In the case of Kimi, I can't really adjudicate on the level he's at. In case of him coming into the car this year, I've always said from the beginning, it's a meritocracy. Logan has to earn his seat. At the moment, he has some tough targets where he has to get much closer to Alex, but there is nothing on the radar at the moment for replacing him. Sam, do you think that Williams should and will stick with Logan Sargeant for the rest of this season?
Should and will. Yeah, two very interesting sides of a coin. Should they? Well, if you look at the results that the two drivers at Williams have given so far across 2024, there are some stark differences. Logan Sargeant has finished 20th, 14th, 17th, and 17th in the races he's actually crossed the lining with an average finishing position of 17th. Alex Albon is finishing 15th, 11th, 11th, 12th, and 18th with an average finishing position of 13.4th, so 13th. Again, in the race he has actually finished in. So quite a stark difference there. But neither of those average positions really give away the point that maybe they could have scored points had things gone their way. What I want to look at are those two 11th places and that 12th place from Alex Albon, because that's three occasions where realistically, one car DNFs, someone has a failure or a crash or something like that. And Alex Albon is primed and ready to be the next person to get points. So when points seem very hard to come by for that Williams team so far, that's realistically where you've got to be putting the car. Logan Sargeant's best result of our 14th place so far, not perfect with an average of 17th, shows me that he's really still quite far away from Alex Albon. Equally, Logan Sargeant is driving a car, much like Alex Albon, that quite clearly is not points ready. It's not scoring points on the long term. So if you're going to build up a driver's development, you're going to let a driver come into their own. Why not let them drive around in a car that isn't scoring points? And regardless of if they're at their best Grand Prix or at their worst Grand Prix, the points haul is exactly the same. So I don't think Logan Sargeant is immediately getting booted out. I do not think that James Vowles is going to be kicking him off down the curb before Imola. See you later. There's a lot of reports going around on social media that he is going to be kicked out. There's this silly video going around about a commentator who's saying that he slipped the reveal of Kimi Antonelli going to Williams already. It all feels like a lot of hullabaloo, a lot of hot air at the moment around this young driver. And I have a lot of trust in James Vowles. All right, he doesn't make every decision perfectly, but I also don't think he's the kind of guy to publicly come out and lie and then less than a week later turn around and go, see you later, sunshine, you're out of a drive. It doesn't feel like his MO. It doesn't feel like the way that he does business. So I do feel like Sargeant has got time on his side. You could hear how panicked he was when Magnussen took him out at the Miami Grand Prix. He was absolutely devastated.
Yeah.
It was really quite upsetting to hear someone be that stressed and that panicked about how he clearly knows that his career is on the line at the moment, and it could swing a really bad direction for him. But I do think that he clearly has passion for the team. He clearly cares. He clearly wants this to be successful. I don't think Vowles is kicking him out just yet. That does not mean that by the summer break, there might not be a mid-season swap. I don't think that's off the cards, but I would be shocked if James Vowles makes that swap before Imola, especially with his statements so far. I think he's got a bit of time on his hands.
What do you think, Harry? Do they make a switch at some point soon, or do you think Sargeant's given more time?
I still think he's given to the end of the year, because you're right. They're Mercedes, Williams, James Vowles, etc. They don't operate on the same way that other teams might do. Looking at you, Red Bull. I just don't see it happening. The way James Vowles has gone about managing that team and the way he's talked about Logan Sargeant and backed Logan Sargeant so far, I just don't see him doing that to him. I think for me as well, we don't know the results of that Mercedes test that Kimi Antonelli had. We're told, is believed that it's been quite impressive. But what's the rush here? What's the rush in getting Kimi Antonelli into that seat? Because if he's that good, give him the rest of this year just to keep nurturing his talent, stick him in the Williams in 2025, and then he's ready. He'll have a year to be ready for 2026. I just don't see what the benefit is for a mid-season. What's the benefit for the team? What's the benefit for Antonelli if he's that good? So in that sense, I don't see it happening. I guess Logan, the worrying thing for Logan Sargeant is his, obviously some crashes he's had, not ideal, and obviously Miami being an example of that. But I still think the worrying thing is his pace versus Albon. There are a couple of occasions it's been better this year, but it's still on the whole not been. It's still not there. And as you said, Sam, when there's in a season where we've not had many retirements, let's be honest, Alex Albon's been on the fringes sort of most of the time, fringes of the points most of the time. So if we had a few more retirements or things had gone his way a bit more, Albon probably has a couple of points. But like you say, Sargent's never been near. And, you know, the scrap he was having with Magnussen before his crash was for 16th or something like that. So that clearly is playing on his mind. And to be fair to Sargeant, and like you mentioned with his radio message, you can't fault his commitment. I think he is committed to trying to make this work. Qatar last year being an example where he really tried to carry on even though he felt so unwell. So I applaud him on that, but at the moment it's just not working. But there's still time. I do believe that Vowles will keep Sargeant for the rest of the year, so maybe there's still time. But if Antonelli is that impressive, then I think it's probably going to happen for 2025. But yeah, I don't really see the rush in getting him in for Imola. Imola definitely not, but even midway through the season, I just don't see the point of it.
He's barely performing in F2, isn't he? It's 6 races. Yeah, give him a chance to really settle in.
Precisely. He's racing F4 in 2022.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, just give him. We've seen it so many times with Red Bull where they've promoted younger drivers too early. I just don't see him. I don't see Vowles doing that.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like his style. I think they stick with Logan Sargeant for a while yet. As James Vowles says later in the same quote that I read out at the beginning, he has more important things to worry about. He has the car not being very good to worry about and his 2025 plans to worry about. As you say, Sam, that Alex Albon might be doing a better job than Logan Sargeant, but at the moment they're at 0-0, and that's because the car isn't where it needs to be. Until they get that sorted, kind of doesn't matter who's in the second seat. And if James Vowles may be using hyperbole here, but James Vowles has said that Alex Albon is currently delivering championship level performances in that Williams, but it's going completely unnoticed based on how bad that car is. That, in my opinion, is a bit of an exaggeration, but equally there is a point in there, which is that Alex Albon in previous years might have been doing enough to score points, and this season he isn't. I know I've made this point a couple of times when it comes to Logan Sargeant, because I was very upfront. I wouldn't have kept him for this year, but Williams decided to, and that's fair enough. But if you're going to keep him for this year, why on earth would you get rid of him after 6 races? It doesn't make any sense. Like, surely, based on where Logan Sargeant right now is, I don't think too many people would disagree with this. Logan Sargeant is the worst driver in F1, but he was also the worst driver in F1 at the end of last season. And surely, if you're Williams, you weren't expecting him to go from worst driver in the sport at the end of last year to being the 10th best driver after 6 Grand Prix this year. Like, what were you expecting? Some massive turnaround in just a few races? I feel like the only reason you hire him this year is based on the potential you think he has. So you give him time to either live up to that potential or not live up to that potential. In which case, I think they do keep him. I do think they keep him for the rest of this year. But they really do need to. They do need to get their 2025 lineup correct. That's the most important thing, because I was thinking about this earlier, and this is tragic from Williams. It's completely unacceptable. The last good Williams lineup was 2016, in my opinion. That is going back a long time. Since 2017, which, what are we talking? That's 8. This is the 8th season since then. There has either been Lance Stroll, Robert Kubica, Nicholas Latifi, or Logan Sargeant in one of their 2 cars. And no disrespect to Robert Kubica, who obviously was far better before his injury, but those 4 drivers to occupy at least one of their seats across like 8 years. I mean, the last time Williams had a good lineup, Lewis Hamilton had 3 world championships. Max Verstappen was a 1-time race winner. It's been a long, long time since Williams have had a good lineup. They really need to sort it for 2025.
Yeah, maybe they can bring back one of those individuals, right? Maybe Valtteri Bottas is the man going forward. Who knows?
Come on, Valtteri, make me right.
Come on, Bottas. Getting a seat.
Well, speaking of those 2025 predictions that we made, we all had slightly different predictions on what Andrea Kimi Antonelli would be up to next year. Harry is going for straight into Mercedes. Sam's going into Williams. And I'm saying a second year in F2. If we are looking at Williams as a possibility, what do you think Mercedes are up to right now with this application to the FIA, Sam? Do you think they're just putting Antonelli in a position to be there if situations change?
Oh, yeah, get the groundwork done. Lay the groundwork. And hey, if that road doesn't lead to anything, if it's a dead end, at least you made all the groundwork that you could do to make something happen. And that's something that Mercedes haven't done properly for a while with their organisation, with their car, the way they've handled their driver relationships. I saw a bloody rumour going around earlier that George Russell, who was on the same type of deal as Lewis Hamilton, could be off out the door. Hilarious. And it's just a rumour, folks. So, keep your hats on.
Where are you going, George?
Well, I don't know.
Where, mate?
Offer a roast at King's Lynn or something.
Back to Williams. I've had enough of this.
I'm in the Land Rover. I saw someone say that it'll be a Verstappen Antonelli lineup. Honestly, Formula One Twitter is F1X. It's mad.
Grow up.
Grow up. But Mercedes are doing the right thing. They're sowing the seeds, and they've got their drivers in their mindsets. They are trying to think about how they can prioritize the people that they're managing, that they're in charge of. And very much like with George Russell, it worked with George Russell, right? He was there for 3 seasons. He got all the development that he needed, and he came into Mercedes, and he did brilliantly in his first year. He had a really, really good year in his first time near the top. So they know it's a formula that works for them. So get everything ready and prepared, because if the door opens, then Antonelli needs to be ready to walk through that door. One thing that is concerning me and really frustrating me about this is, why should Antonelli be given any kind of special circumstance? Why should he be made an exception of? Because when you've got people like Colton Herta, who is racing around in IndyCar, and okay, the sport doesn't generate enough super license points, but he's very successful over there in a major league racing series. And he's not allowed to get an exception to come and race in Formula One. Why should this child be allowed to come in instead when he's not even done half a year in F2? So that annoyed me, that there was such a presumption, such expectation that, paperwork will be done, he'll be in that seat by mid-season, everything goes our way. That did frustrate me from the FIA.
Yeah, I am going to put out a rule, which is any driver born after 2005 is banned from F1, and not just now, but forever, because I don't want to feel old. So
there'll be no one left.
Making that happen.
No one left. There'll be Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton, and Kimi Raikkonen making a comeback.
Will just be the oldest man forever.
Yeah, that's how it'll be. Harry, you laid out a potential route where Antonelli would be in the Williams seat for 1 year, ready for Mercedes in 2026. But we also know that James Vowles has been quite vocal about getting a driver in for multi-years, 2025 and 2026. So whilst that approach would benefit Antonelli, do you think it would benefit Williams? Would they want to go down that path?
Tricky, because I think it would be an improvement for them, even if it's not a long-term improvement. But I don't know. I don't know whether they're in the position to be that picky about it, to be honest. If Antonelli's offered to them or chosen for them for a couple of years. I'm not sure they would. I don't think they would say no if he's that good. But B, I don't think they're in a position to say no. So, yeah, I mean, they could go, like you say, go down a Bottas route. But how many more years does that give them with Bottas versus an Antonelli, for example? You know, I'm not saying Bottas is close to retirement, but he's been around for a little while now. Was it given 3-4 years maybe before he thinks about it? And his form, up and down. Questionable.
In Miami somewhere, isn't it?
He's lost it again. Still looking. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like they can't really afford to be that picky about who's driving their car, even if it means that they lose that driver in a couple of years' time. But if they get a couple of years, especially when we get to 2026, and that's, you know, James Vowles' target, if they get him for a couple of years here, they're in the pound seat, because that could be a tasty little lineup if he's as good as he's cracked up to be, him and Albon. So yeah, not sure they should turn their noses up at it.
Yeah, I think it's one they should explore. I don't think that he should be driving for Williams this season. I think it would be detrimental to, as you've already said, detrimental to his development. I don't think there's any benefit to that. And to your point, Sam, the FIA should absolutely not give him the right to drive an F1 car before his birthday in August, his 18th birthday, because it's one of the very few black and white rules in this sport. Under 18, no. Over 18, okay. Like, it's just as simple as that. There is no reason to bend the rules in this instance. If they bend the rule in this instance, there's no reason why they shouldn't bend it every single time that someone asks. So it should be very clear that it's a no on that. But I don't think like I said, I don't think it'd be beneficial for him anyway. He has only raced in 6 Formula 2 races at this point. He didn't do traditional Formula 3. He was racing F4 2 seasons ago. Guy's 17 years old. Let it happen. Like, give it time. It will happen. But we don't want to rush him into it. But yeah, I understand. I know when I posed the question to you, Harry, it's a massive dilemma, because if you're Williams, do you want to take him on? Because Williams have been insistent that they don't want to be a Mercedes customer team. They want to go their own way. They want to build themselves back up to where they once were. And I feel like you can only do that if you relish and embrace the independence. And if you know you're loaning a driver in the same way that George Russell was in there a couple of years ago, are you moving forward, even if that driver is a special talent? It is a tough one. What are your thoughts on that, Sam?
The only way this works for Williams is discounts. If they can get major money off their engine suppliers and they can reinvest that elsewhere in their development for the car, fine, that at least makes sense, because the big issue, as we've already discussed here, is the car, not the lineup. The lineup could be Nicholas Latifi and, you know, put Sargeant in the other car for all I care, because if the car is never capable of scoring points, so what does it matter? If you're 19th and 20th, or if you're 13th and 14th every single Grand Prix, if you are categorically never going to score points because the car's too slow, it doesn't matter who you have in the car. So if they can get a heap load of discounts off of Mercedes for parts, sure. If that means that they could take big steps forward in the next couple of years, that makes sense. That's logical to me. If they cannot, if the discounts are minor, why bother taking Antonelli? How does that help Williams for more than a season or so? Yeah, it's nice. Albon and Antonelli, very potent young driver lineup. But it's not Williams. It's not their identity. It can be taken off them whenever they want. They have no control over their destiny. And that's the point of James Vowles. That's the point of having Pat Fry there. That's the point of these new owners that they've got. They're becoming their own Formula One team again. And they are a customer team. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear of Williams looking for an engine supplier in the next few years to try and become completely independent again in Formula One. So for me, I would go and take a punt on a slightly older head in Formula One. I think Bottas is a fair shout. I think there's a few other names floating around that might want to get out of tricky situations and build something around themselves alongside the likes of Alex Albon. So for me, unless they're getting money off, it's not worth it.
And we're focusing on Williams here, but we know the actual thing that will happen is that Lewis Hamilton's going to get a 6-month break and he's going to go straight into the Mercedes this season.
Imagine if that actually happened.
Breaking news as we record this.
Surely not.
No, it won't. It'll happen the moment Kursky hits upload.
Yeah.
As is always the case. Let's take our first break on this episode. On the other side, we're going to be talking Kevin Magnussen. Okay, everyone, welcome back. Andrea Stella, team principal at McLaren, has called Kevin Magnussen's tactics during the Miami Grand Prix sprint as unacceptable after he accumulated 35 seconds worth of penalties. He had the following to say: "We have a case of behaviour being intentional in terms of damaging another competitor, and this behaviour is perpetuated within the same race and repeated over the same season. It is completely unacceptable. It makes no sense from a sportsmanship point of view, and this should be addressed immediately." Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri also weighed in, Norris suggesting that drivers would rather a system where they cede positions rather than take time penalties, and Piastri agreed that in blatant situations, this sort of penalty would be an effective deterrent, as drivers would much rather lose one position than take a drive-through penalty. The stewards, of course, cleared Magnussen of unsportsmanlike behaviour, but did say that the FIA should toughen up the rules. Sam, should any action be taken? And if so, what?
I think retrospective action, no. I think what should be done is an example should be we should draw a line in the sand and they should toughen up the rules, as was stated by the stewards quoting to the FIA. And I do think that a difference in penalty needs to be applied when it gets to this point, because these 5-second or 10-second penalties only ever do so much, and they're being slapped on for every whatever, Oh, I've flicked your Nang's earlobe, 5-second penalty. Oh, I've kicked a child in the park, 5-second penalty, right? They are. I
arrested for that.
I did that before the podcast, and I'm still here.
Both of them.
Wasn't even late. Tell you, Nang, I'm sorry.
Simultaneous.
So anyway, my point is they need to have a bit more of a diverse range of penalties available to them, and drivers essentially need to be scared for the consequences of their actions. You look at the fact that Piastri drove Carlos Sainz clean off the road, and it was noted. No action further needed. I despise this kind of driving now, where you can run drivers clean off the road, and you're somehow in favour because your nose is slightly ahead. And Kevin Magnussen, I do think was a bit unsportsmanlike. I'm surprised that he got ruled as sportsmanlike behaviour. He was trying to put his car literally everywhere, inside and outside the track perimeters, to do what he can to cause disruption. But give him a drive-through. That way he's at the back of the field immediately. Or tell him that if he doesn't see the position to Hamilton within 3 laps, drive-through penalty. Or disqualified from the Grand Prix. I know it's extreme, but you need to start putting your foot down that these drivers only behave in the way we want them to behave. It was bordering on dangerous. These cars are worth a lot of money. And at forefront, people's lives, I know that sounds probably a little bit dramatic for Miami, because at no point was anyone's life at risk, but there could be a Grand Prix in the future where someone's life is at risk because someone has gone, Kevin Magnussen only got a 10-second penalty for it this season, so I'm going to cut the corner at full speed to stay in front of them. What if you lose control? What if you're driving to someone the wrong way and it goes wrong? It's just too much open for interpretation, and I do think that there is a risk that this goes too far. So yeah, I want penalties to be resolved. And I'm not just talking about the ones that Kevin Magnussen said. We need a full overview on penalties, a full rewrite. Drivers should be afraid to break the rules. And that's the point of rules. You shouldn't want to break them because you can get away with it. So I totally understand what Stella's saying. I totally get what Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris are saying as well. I do think something needs to be adjusted.
So if, and appreciating the point on, you don't want to retrospectively apply, different penalties or whatever, but let's just copy and paste that exact scenario from Miami to Imola. If you were in a position of power, which is a great idea, by the way.
I agree.
How do you approach it? Like, which of those, because you named a couple of different things that could be the answer, but what do you think, if you were in control, what would be the answer?
So obviously in this scenario, there's been an announcement to say that there's a new rule set. So there's no moaning back and forth that it was different in Miami for everyone that wants to comment. Yeah. First call is you see the position. You get, within 2 laps, see the position. If you don't, drive-through penalties applied. You've got 2 laps to take the drive-through penalty. If you don't, you get disqualified. It's a 3-step process. And I think you've got enough time to make a decision as a driver to get out of the way and do the right thing. If you've really taken the mickey, like Magnussen kind of did. I mean, it was funny. I enjoyed watching it, but he took the mickey.
What do you think, Harry? Do you think the FIA stewards should be having a look at this?
Yeah, yes, they should be looking at this. But as you mentioned already, Sam, I think there are so many inconsistencies now around the rules of racing, that it's just a mess, and I feel like they need to almost start over, because again, and I don't agree with all of what Magnussen did in Miami, but I was thinking about this, the example where Hamilton came out the inside of him and then came out sort of, we were watching from on board, Hamilton and came out sort of comes from off the road back on, and they have a little a bump up in a barge. To me, that's no different to what Piastri does to Sainz, because he just dives in and they have a little bump on a barge and the Sainz is off the track. I don't see the difference there. And maybe this is obviously all purely subjective, so people don't tweet me. But yeah, it's the variety of penalties. And I'm probably fall on the side of favour of harder racing versus some people, and I fully admit that what Magnussen was doing in Miami was too much, and even the man himself admitted it was too much. So that speaks for itself. But it's where do you draw the line? I like the idea of, you know, having a rule where we'll give that was too much, mate. Give the place back first, and if they don't, then bang, slap them with a penalty. But yeah, if it's an obvious penalty, then obviously give them a penalty. But give the option for them to repent for their sins first, and then if they decide, oh no, well it's not worth it, or they're in a position where they can't get the place back because they're too far out the road, then whatever, slap them with a penalty. But I don't want. The thing is, I don't want to reward unsportsmanlike behaviour, but also at the same time, I don't want to prevent good hard racing. And there are examples out there of drivers that have done it. Ocon and Alonso. I can't believe they're the example from Miami that did it fair. Sure. Yeah, of all the people. But there are drivers that can do it and have to be run off the road, and that's the sort of racing we want. And yeah, I just feel like we've gotten to a bit of a pickle. I also want to make this point on Twitter, or X if you want to call it that. That obviously what was called the Max Verstappen rule. Yeah. Ever since, is it Austria 2019 when he took the win from Leclerc on the last couple of laps? It's been a slippery slope from there on in, because we're at this point now where you can do one thing that seems as bad as another thing, but you get two very different outcomes in terms of penalty. So yeah, it's messy. It's messy. It needs a relook, and you're right, and it can't be done retrospectively. Obviously, that's just ridiculous. But they're now in a very difficult place where if they do bring in some new rules or wipe the slate clean, inevitably there'll be a lot of commentary about what was allowed before and what wasn't, and we're just in this very messy position now, and it's FIA, it's your own fault.
Yeah, well, the FIA constantly forget that they are the governing body and they're the ones controlling things and not the teams and drivers, and they should probably remember that.
Well, they all keep leaving, that's the problem.
Well, that's a very good point in its own right. They could do with... They're like Alpine in that regard. Can't keep anyone around. I was just going to mention, actually, quick one on consistencies and the like with the FIA. You know, in our review, we were mentioning how last season, everything gets a 5-second penalty, and this season, everything gets a 10-second penalty, which was true at the time of us saying that. They just randomly gave Sainz the 5-second penalty for the Piastri collision. Feel like that's the first 5-second penalty that's been given this year. Like, where did that come from?
And what's the difference? Why?
I don't know. How is that 5, but Alonso versus Sainz was 10? Like, I don't quite understand.
I'd love... They should... I know it's hard to do, but even if it's after the race for social media, provide some like commentary of how they're coming to these decisions, like you do it, like you have in rugby and football with VAR.
The best example.
Yeah. But and it's, again, you can't do it mid-race because it'd be ridiculous and boring. But even for afterwards, it would just be interesting to know.
Just the text banner at the top. You know, X penalty's been given because of X reason. You know, just a one-liner. Find more on social media.
Yeah, just some reasoning behind it. Because, like you say, where's the consistency?
There isn't any. Similar to what you've both said already. I mean, this is the issue that comes with time penalties, in that they're very rarely actually fairly given out. Like, there's just no way to do it because you're not serving them straight away. And in some instances, 5-second penalties can be massively hurtful. I'm thinking Carlos Sainz, Australia, safety car restart, gets it on the last lap, and of course he's going to drop behind like 10 other drivers. And other instances where drivers will happily take them, knowing that they can get ahead because they've got ahead, and they'll take the 5-second penalty, and they know they're going to pull out that gap with ease. So there isn't any consistency at all. I said it on the review, and I haven't changed my mind on this. Kevin Magnussen, based on the current rules, would have been stupid not to do what he did. Like, he guaranteed the team got 2 points. Now, he was going to get 0 points anyway after the first 10-second penalty that he got. It was pretty much a 99% guarantee that Magnussen was not going to score points when he had that first 10-second penalty, in which case the other 25 seconds that he got is not a penalty. It's worth nothing to him. In terms of a potential solution, like you've already said, there are a few that could be used. Giving positions back is tough because it's the one I like the most just as a concept. I think there are difficulties in that, when does something that you do only impact one driver behind you? When does it impact multiple drivers? So, for example, we had at Miami quite a few instances where a mistake from a driver would lead to two drivers getting by in quick succession. If a driver has skipped over a chicane, is it just the driver behind that has been, they've kept the position ahead of the driver behind? Is it actually two drivers behind? That's difficult to tell. And obviously there are certain situations where you cannot give back one position because something has happened behind, and actually you then have to give back two positions. Now you might just say, tough. Sometimes that will happen. But equally, they've been penalised more than what should have been the case, which is kind of where we're at with time penalties. I would love a system, and I know I joked about this previously, I would love a system where we could, if it was safe, have some sort of slowdown penalty. So you are actually taking a 5-second time penalty on track within a couple of laps by slowing down by a certain amount and hitting a delta similar to what you've got with a VSC, only if it's safe. If there's not a safe way to pull that off, I don't think that should be the case, but I don't mind that as a solution. And even without seeding positions, even within the current guise of like time penalties, if we were sticking with that, I would have it third penalty you get, regardless of what that infraction is, that's a drive-through penalty. So the first penalty could be a 5-second penalty, second penalty could be a 10-second penalty. Third penalty might, in ordinary circumstances, also be a 5-second penalty, but because it's your third caution, you get a drive-through penalty at that point, which might be partially a solution if they did want to stick with time penalties.
Imagine in a fantasy world if, like Rallycross, we had what was a Joker lap set up, but it wasn't like a Joker lap. It was just like a little lane that you had to drive through. It wasn't the pit lane. You got full racing speed, but it kind of took off about 5 seconds. So you took an alternate route round a corner to essentially add it on. That way you're getting your slowdown penalty, like you said, Ben, without actually having to go through the pit lane or being on the track to slow itself down. You just take a kind of a longer route around one corner.
Yeah.
I think that could work, but it'll be almost impossible to implement. Imagine that in Monaco. Drive through the boats, please. That's your slowdown.
I think at some tracks you could make it happen. Like Monza, I think you can make it happen quite easily. But like you say, you have to work to the lowest common denominator, right? And that would be Monaco, or certainly a track similar to that. Imagine it. Go around the blind corners of Jeddah. I reckon you should do it there.
But you're right, there's lots of tracks as well. Bahrain has got so many layouts, for example, as does Paul Ricard was on the calendar. You could set another lane up that had cones all around it, which they'd knock over immediately anyway. That would be kind of this extended track for a penalty. But yeah, there's loads of options. Just sort it out, FIA, bit of consistency.
Yeah, that's the thing. You've got like 6 different solutions, and it kind of, to an extent, doesn't matter which one you pick. Just apply it consistently. That's the number one thing we're asking here. In terms of Kevin Magnussen himself, Harry, do you think that his behavior across Miami, of course, only 2 points away from getting a race ban, does this in any way jeopardize his position next year? Of course, he's without a contract at the moment.
Potentially. I mean, if he keeps doing it, then Haas are going to turn around and be like, no, stop it, mate. His argument will be he was doing it for the good of the team, and in that sense he did, because Hulkenberg scored points in the sprint. But I'm not sure he can use that as an excuse for anything. I was doing it for the good. I murdered this man for the good of the team. I don't think that will fly. So yeah, he can't carry on with that attitude, and hopefully they have had a word with him and said, look, okay, Mag, mate, you don't have to fall on your sword quite so much, or quite so violently.
Komatsu's brutal. Yeah. He's telling you do that more often.
Yeah, I want more. Maybe they will out the way. No, probably won't. But yeah, I don't think it'll massively. They know what they're getting in the form of Kevin Magnussen. Like, he's always been a tough person to overtake. Obviously, this was perhaps
Shouldn't be shocked at this point. Right?
yeah, exactly. He's got form, but obviously, I think this was more shocking because it was perhaps more blatant. It was more blatant, and also there were repeat offences within what was a 19-lap sprint race. So that's probably why it seems a bit more shocking. But I don't think it affects them too much. They know what they're getting with K-Mag.
Sam, do you think it impacts anything?
If he only ever does it when there's a chance that Hulkenberg can get points, he's gotten away with it twice now, essentially. If he only ever does it when Hulkenberg is 11th or whatever, every time he goes, if I didn't do it, Hulkenberg might have not got close to those points. If he could get out of the car every single time and say that, then what can Haas really say? Yeah, you didn't score points, but you were the reason why Hulkenberg did score points. It goes in their favour. And I think as long as he does that at the right moments, he'll get away with it. But if he starts doing it on the regular just because he's a bit of a pain in everyone's backsides and just likes driving off the track, then no, at that point he becomes a bit of a liability. And if he starts causing damage to the car regularly, the team like Haas do not have a massive, extensive budget for continued repairs. That then becomes a real issue. So I don't think he's at risk at the moment. I think the fact that Hulkenberg's leaving and they haven't really got clear lineups sorted out for next year, he's all right. But I do think he needs to walk that line carefully.
And in many respects, I mean, he can't really do it again. I mean, he can, but he will get a race ban if he does this again. He might be 2 points away, but as we know, 2 points is essentially one incident. And Magnussen had about 12 at Miami. So if he does it again, he will just sit out a race, which, the team can turn around and say, look, we appreciate what you're doing for Nico Hulkenberg, what you're doing for the team. It is greatly appreciated. But also, if you have to sit out a race and we have to go with a reserve driver like Ollie Behrman, who, despite being very good at this point in his career, might not be in as good of a position to pick up points if they're available compared to Kevin Magnussen, then you might have just lost more than what we've gained through your tactics in the first place. So in some respects, I guess it will police itself because he can't get away with it again without taking a race ban.
We don't see enough race bans. I like a good race ban. It mixes things up.
Romain Grosjean.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
I mean, that was the last one, right? I mean,
2012, that was a while ago now.
Been a while. But there's a few that are starting to creep up already this year.
Indeed there are. Magnussen and Alonso going on a 1 week holiday together at some point.
Magnussen is definitely getting a race ban. I'm sorry. He's got literally 12 months. He's definitely getting a ban.
Do we know when the first of those points comes off? Is it
25th of March?
So he was on 0 points before then?
Yes.
God damn, Kevin.
No.
Is getting a ban.
Good luck, Kevin. He's just going to be staying away like 3 meters away from all cars for the rest of the year.
It's just COVID restrictions reenacted. Stay back.
He's got his mask on in the car. Like, I'm not touching you, mate. Shall we have a quick F1 fantasy update before we go to our second break?
Oh, I'd love one, Ben.
I'm not surprised by your optimism, Sam, because you are leading the way, at least in terms of our little group, 290 seconds. So well done to you.
Thanks.
I changed my entire team and basically didn't change anything in terms of the leaderboard. Basically where I was last time. 441st. Kirsty is currently 604th. And as the famous Aristotle, I believe, once said, it's all about 7 places forward, 74 positions back. That's Harry Eads' philosophy.
Yeah.
Hang on, 1,244th.
Yeah, we only have like 1,300 teams.
Yeah. Love, it's been a tricky start to the season.
Some of those people weren't here at the start, and they're in front of you.
Yeah, that's not good either. I'll be real. I used a chip. I changed my team. I thought that meant my team was changed. It changed back to my old team. Didn't realize that was a thing.
Didn't read the rules.
Okay.
It's done me.
I want to clarify what you've done. I think I know what you've done here.
Please tell me.
You've used the wrong chip.
You've used the unlimited one-off transfers.
Yeah.
The mega spend. You can buy whoever you want for one race.
You didn't mega spend.
You just put a normal team in.
Yeah, I thought I was just changing. I thought I was just changing my team. Let's go.
So you could have had the top 5 drivers and cars, and you just went, normal team for one race.
I think that might be what's happened.
I'll try again next year.
Hey,
good.
Imola, guaranteed, you'll be up 7 positions again. And then minus 74 the next race.
You deserve it, mate.
I have to give a shout out as well to the current top three. So still in the lead, Sweet Papayas on
Comfortably as well.
1,731, doing very well indeed. Second place, Papa Toto's Pumpernickel,
Oh,
1,686. And Team Austrian Anthem is in third, 1,643. So well done to you three, doing far better than any of us.
Good to see Austria in 2 and 3 there.
Indeed, yeah. Good job, Austria. Well done.
We're proud of you.
We're going to take our final break. On the other side, we're going to be talking about Miami's TV figures.
I'm in Miami.
Girl.
Nice.
What tune that is.
Okay, welcome back. This weekend's Miami Grand Prix set an F1 live viewership record in the USA. So ESPN are reporting an average of 3.1 million viewers tuning into the race. This represents a 48% increase on the 2023 Grand Prix and beats the record the 2022 race set when it pulled in an average of 2.6 million. Good news, Sam?
I mean, yeah, it is good news. I think a lot of people will come out and say, oh, it's because we had a different winner for the first time since Australia and only the third different winner. But obviously...
You don't know that when you're tuning in,
exactly.
Right?
You don't know where you're tuning in. So unless most of America, well, 3 million people are Mystic Meg, and they're aware there's going to be some kind of revelation taking place, this shows that Miami, weirdly, just has quite an allure to it, quite a pull to it. Now, considering that you're comparing it to COTA, which has been around a while, and if you didn't know, we went to COTA last year. We had a really, really good time. But it's interesting that can't match Miami. And then, of course, we had Vegas, right? Vegas last year popped up. And you would have thought if any spectacle was going to take this crown away from Miami, it would have been Vegas. And yet, no, here we are again with Miami leading the way. And I was quite surprised. I was surprised anyway that Miami held the record. I'm surprised now that Miami holds an even bigger record. So I don't know, maybe it's the glitz and the glam. Maybe Miami just has an appeal to it that I don't know about in America. And Americans, there's a lot of you listening. Let us know. We were very high up the sports charts this week. So thanks for your support on that one. But something about Miami pulls you guys in. Ben, any thoughts? As kind of our resident US expert, why did Miami do that?
Well, a few reasons. First, I mean, taking away just this year and just the Miami doing better in general, 2 main reasons. Number one, prime time in the US compared to Las Vegas, which isn't. Makes so sense. That definitely helps. Secondly, out of NFL season. So the Austin race happens all the time when you're in the middle of the NFL season, and that just takes, not just F1, that takes away from all other sports. So I think in that respect, it's less of a surprise that Miami does well. And in many respects, I think, I know there's basketball going on at the moment, but that's probably why in terms of US growth, it is maybe a little bit frustrating that a lot of the primetime US races do happen in sort of October, which like Mexico and Brazil, they do have to compete with the NFL, whereas they wouldn't at this point in the year. But we've just come out of like 4 races that are in the early morning for us here in UK, so in the middle of the night for many in the US.
Do you think that these numbers are skewed then? Do you think that whilst it's a great number to see, do you think actually we're seeing a bit of a, yes, good, but there's a lot of extenuating circumstances?
There's a couple of extenuating circumstances on this one, and it's difficult to know how much of an impact each one had. So I guess when it comes to ratings, you're looking at 2 things. You're looking at what competition is there at the same time, and also what's the lead into the program. So there was quite a big basketball game directly before the Miami Grand Prix. It was a deciding Game 7 between Cleveland and Orlando, which admittedly, no offense to either of those 2 teams, aren't the biggest fan bases, but even so, that had a 4.3 million rating just before Miami Grand Prix. But even so, holding a good chunk of that into the race itself, it is good. The other one is competition. Now, just like last year, Miami went up against the Kansas race, NASCAR, but it was rain delayed. So it was supposed to be that the NASCAR race started an hour before Miami. So obviously going straight through the Miami Grand Prix after that. But there was a 3-hour rain delay. So actually the NASCAR race started about 30 minutes after the Miami Grand Prix finished. So a lot of people are talking about that as potentially a reason that there's a bit of a boost in numbers. What I would say to that, though, is if you think there's crossover between the two audiences, and that's why there was a boost in the F1 figures, you would also therefore say there should be a boost in the NASCAR figures, because people watching F1 could also watch NASCAR when they didn't think that would be an option. NASCAR's figures year on year didn't change. So actually, I think a lot of the growth this year was organic and wasn't related to NASCAR. But people are at least speculating that might be part of the reason. I don't think it's a massive part, though.
Really interesting when the Drive to Survive numbers, which have driven a large part of America's watching audience, have dropped by like 24% down to 2.3 million that watched in the first 3 days. It shows that the overall excitement of entering the sport seems to be waning. And yet a track like Miami that is so poorly received by the general Formula One audience has picked up such a large audience in comparison to rival tracks such as COTA and Vegas. So really exciting. Hopefully it carries on in that trend, but you're right, Ben. It seems like there are some interesting areas around the race time itself that maybe COTA and Vegas themselves could look to learn from. We could even see a bigger audience flocking to those two tracks.
What did you make of the viewing figure, Harry, and how important was it that sort of a viewing figure got a new winner and an exciting race?
Yeah, I mean, that's fallen perfectly for Formula One, and we said it in the review, you know, F1 needed this sort of race, and for it to happen at Miami, I think is for Steve Sunday, Stefano Domenicali, I think that's the perfect recipe. So, yeah, like you say, obviously there's some mitigating circumstances here, but on the face of it, how, you know, it's better than the last 2 years of Miami, and that can only be a good thing. And if you're pulling in people from the fringes that would normally be watching NFL at the time or a basketball match, etc., this is what F1 want. Their main aim here is to make it big in America. Obviously, it's a global sport. They want to be big everywhere, but America's the market. It's never properly cracked, and for once, or for the first time, it seems like they're starting to make some headway. So, yeah, it's definitely encouraging. Like I say, it's maybe the first one that most people probably could watch live. The rest of them, they were all asleep at the time. So obviously it has helped things, but that's the point of having 3 races in America, isn't it? For those sort of things. Obviously, a lot of races they can't watch at the right time, but races at Miami and COTA or whatever in Las Vegas, that helps the American. I mean, Las Vegas doesn't because it's a stupid time, but COTA and Miami helps the American audience because they can watch at the right time. So, yeah, it's an encouraging sign, and yeah, very fortunate for F1 that they had such a banger of a race to go with it, because that is the sort of thing that will, if you say you are an NFL fan, never watched F1 before, you go, oh, well, no NFL one, I'll stick on the F1. I can't support the Cowboys today. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
Sad yeehaw. That was lame from all 3 of us. I can't support the Cowboys today. I'll watch the F1 because it's on. And then you get that and you go, well, that was exciting. I'll watch that again. That's exactly what F1 want/need. So, yeah, it's cool. Good news all around.
Yeah, and obviously we're at Imola, so back to European time zone for that race. But of course, Canada isn't too far away, which is more US friendly. So it'll be interesting to see how those viewing figures stack up. Admittedly, I'm not quite sure where it will be this, because ESPN hold the rights in the US, but they change where it's distributed. So sometimes it's on their ABC channel, sometimes it's on ESPN, sometimes it's on ESPN2. So based on where it sits, that does directly impact the viewing figures.
That is terrible. That is so confusing for everyone, isn't it? Oh, I've heard of Formula One. I'll give it a watch. Where is it? ESPN. Cool. I'm going to watch it on ESPN next weekend. Oh, I really enjoyed that. I'll watch it again. It's not on ESPN. Where is it? ESPN2, apparently. Great.
American TV channels confuse me.
So confusing. And there's more adverts than TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, when you guys watch IndyCar and we watch it here on Sky, you guys pop off for an advert break. We carry on watching the racing. It's bizarre.
Us and Tom Gamer is excellent.
Thanks, Tom Gamer. Love you.
Tom Gamer shout out on the pod. Love that.
Love you, Tom.
Who's always slightly confused about what's going on.
Oh, I'm back.
I'm back on now. All right, okay.
Okay. The other thing just to mention before we move on as well is that obviously the US has access to full F1 TV. So I guess you've got the full ESPN figures here, but there will be some on top of that as well, thanks to F1 TV. That's unknown though. Should we move on to Lewis Hamilton, who he had a pretty good race at the weekend, didn't he? But he didn't win, and he said he's had enough of not winning. Sam, what can he do about that?
Get goose scrub.
Win.
Should he be encouraged by the couple of new winners we've had this year, or is it just a case that he needs to ride this out for the rest of this year?
I mean, yeah, be encouraged, but what's going to happen, mate? You know, miracles don't work constantly. You know, that's why they're called miracles. Carlos Sainz won when Max Verstappen had a DNF, and Lando Norris won because, yes, he had brilliant pace, but a safety car also played into his hands. So, yeah, we all agree that there might have been a chance for Norris to win if that safety car didn't come out, but it was far easier because the safety car was there. Lewis, mate, I know you want to win. You're a 7-time world champion, and you've won more than literally everyone else. So, realistically, everyone else does deserve a go. But I get it. You're a competitive guy and you want to be successful continually all the time. You're just going to have to wait, really, though, aren't you? Wait your turn, get in line, and just, you know, when you get to the front of the queue, you can get into your Ferrari car, and you never know, you and Freddie Vass might be cooking up a storm in 2025, and you might go on to win something. But honestly, this just feels like a moan for the sake of moaning. And I respect it. Hamilton loves a moan for the sake of moaning. He is the king of moaning. He loves a whinge. You know, 7-time whinge champion he is. But
that's going to rile a lot of people, boy.
Oh, boy. There's the real.
He's incredible behind the wheel of a Formula One car, but he does.
Cut that.
Incredibly whingy.
What does he want from this comment? What Mercedes make the car better? Doesn't affect me though, because I'll be gone in 6 months. So, what does he want?
Toto's like, we're supposed to win. I forgot.
I thought we were fighting for ninth. What? I don't understand what he's aiming to gain from this comment.
Lewis has had enough. All right, let's get to work.
Right,
take the sandbags off.
Come on. Dog. Yeah, there you go. Bring the upgrades out. Finally, Lewis said the magic words, I want to win. Like, what?
It's like a really massive long bet they've had. See how long you can go before Lewis cracks and goes, I'm bored of this.
Yeah,
why are we not winning anymore?
Now.
Oh, fine.
George is in on it.
Yes.
We got him again.
It's George's idea.
I got the 7th place.
Oh, what a prankster, George.
Funded by Fernando Alonso, obviously.
George the rascal Russell and just Fernando just playing pranks on him.
Oh, dear.
Harry, what do you think? Do you think he's had enough?
Yeah, shut up, mate. What are you talking about? No. I understand his frustration here because he's now seeing, in an era which has been dominated by Red Bull, he's now seen Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, I guess Sergio Perez, but he was in Red Bull, but he's seen his own teammate, George Russell, and now Lando Norris win a race. And he's like the only one sort of left in that top group, who hasn't. And I understand that, but also, what are you going to gain, mate? So what? I'm sure everyone else in Mercedes is also really bored of not winning. Like, what do you want to do? Most of the time I feel like Hamilton. I think sometimes he's quite calculated with what he says, but a lot of the time he just talks because he wears his heart on his sleeve quite a lot of the time, and he just says how he feels. So, and he gets picked up because he does
even
Hamilton.
More this year as well.
Yeah, he has been quite moany this year.
Man,
I mean, lap 2 in China when he said he hated the tyres was a good one. That's a low point.
Tires, man.
I hate this already. It's lap 2.
2 minutes 10 into the race, Lewis.
Yeah, but he does, and I don't think he's particularly calculated in what he's trying to say. He's just telling people how he feels, and it gets picked up. So I don't know whether he is trying to gain anything from this. I think he's just saying it. But yeah, you're right. It's tough because I'm sure everyone else in the team, or the team at the track, the team back in Brackley and Brixworth, our friend, he's probably quite fed up about it as well. Shout out to Kay Shopland there.
Big up K Shop.
Big up K Shop. But yeah, it's just the sign of a frustrated man. And I said this the other day. And like I said, he did quite well on the weekend, but I just think he's a bit checked out of this year. And I don't think it's reflecting in his driving a little bit, but also not all the time. Because as we say, he did well on Sunday, and that move on Yuki Tsunoda was like watching vintage Lewis Hamilton, wasn't it? It was excellent. Pure filth. Dirty, need a scrub. But yeah, I just feel like he's a bit checked out this year, and this is another piece of evidence to back that up.
Yeah, I can understand his frustration, and I think if you look at this relatively as well, so Lewis Hamilton at this point has gone 51 races without a win, going back to Saudi Arabia, of course, in 2021. before that, he had never gone more than 10 races in his career without a win. So he's essentially on a run that is 5 times longer than any other run he'd had before that. Like, trying to put that into perspective for like Lando Norris, he's just won for the first time on the 110th attempt. Imagine if that was 550 instead, which is just ridiculous. And I know we shouldn't be, completely sympathetic. I mean, he's had a lot of success, but I think that's one of the reasons why he's going to be more frustrated than the average F1 driver, is because he's used to having all that success. He's used to having at least one win a season, and now he's gone quite a long time since his last one. I think seeing Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz take victories so far this year, I think it's going to go one way or the other. It's either going to boost him, I think, and motivate him to think that opportunities might come about this year where there weren't last year, or it's going to completely crush him to see other winners that aren't him. And I'm not sure which one it'll be yet.
I respect his drive. I respect his want to always win. I really do. It is formidable. But, what's moaning to an interviewer going to do?
What is it going to do, indeed? Should we take our final break and we'll play F1 higher or lower on the other side?
Bring on that jingle, baby.
You said it was our final break last time, Ben. How many final breaks we having, boy?
And we're going to go to our final break now. After that, we're going to have another break.
Don't worry, guys. It's our final break.
Can he believe that?
Break, final.
Apologies for the camera moving there, because I realised that I think the game is in this notebook that was actually propping up the camera.
It's so late breaking.
Would have been really funny if that wasn't the notebook, but it is.
I'm not sure how funny that would have been.
I think it would have been outright hilarious. Okay, everyone, welcome back. It's time for F1 higher or lower.
Is F1 higher? Is F1 lower? Is Sam faster? Is Harry slower? F1 higher? F1 lower? F1.
I actually wrote this game last week, so I just used the jingle time to reread all of the questions to ensure that I know what they're all about.
Great news.
My handwriting great, as always. F1 higher or lower? So there are 6 questions. The boys will take it in turns to guess the answer to the question, and it'll always be a number. If they get it right, they get 2 points, but that's quite tricky. So if they get it wrong, the other person has the opportunity to say higher or lower. If they get that right, they get a point. But if they get it wrong, the person who guessed first gets the point. Harry, do you want to kick us off? What number would you like?
Number 1, please.
Number 1. If Max Verstappen's career started in 2022, where would he rank for all-time wins?
That's ludicrous.
No, it's Max Verstappen.
He would rank. Can I know where he ranks currently? He doesn't even know.
I mean, it's quite high, isn't it?
He would rank
where he ranks currently.
He would rank. I don't know, 4th.
He wouldn't rank 4th. Higher or lower than that, Sam? And it's a bit of an awkward one, so you can clarify which way you mean.
Yeah, I was going to say, what kind of order am I going in here? I think it will be. Lower. He'll be further away from the top.
That is correct. He'd be 7th in all-time wins if his career started in 2022, which is mildly terrifying.
Yeah, that's filthy.
He's pretty good, isn't he?
Filthy.
So Sam gets on the board first, and it's your pick, Sam.
I'll go higher at 2, please.
Oh, it's funny because you couldn't have gone lower. How many drivers have won a race for Ferrari?
Oh. 27.
It's not 27. Do you want to go higher or lower than that, Harry?
Lower.
It's 27 was a pretty good guess. 34 is the correct answer.
What number was Lando Norris? He was like 104th or something, wasn't he? That 103rd?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you think about that, that's pretty good. How many have won for Ferrari?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah. Harry, back to you. What number would you like?
Number 6.
Number 6. How many winless seasons has Kimi Räikkönen had?
Count them on your hand, mate.
No, I think. Bear with me, folks. This isn't good audio. I'm counting on my fingers.
Yeah, sorry for silence there. Harry is counting. He's currently holding 3 fingers in the air. You can see his eyes. 4 is up to now. His eyes are moving across as his brain processes the information.
That little finger's still down. It's still having his 4.
He's throwing some gang signs by the looks of it.
Gang. 14.
Oh, that's 5. We're up to 5. 6. He's got the thumb on the other hand. It's up.
Thumbs out.
7, 8 is up. Sorry, 9. YouTuber understanding everything, but
11.
It's not 11.
Crap.
Higher or lower?
I'm going to go lower.
Yeah, I think you might have double counted one in there. It's 10.
10.
Oh, unlucky.
That is harsh. That is very harsh.
Very, very harsh. You got the jingle there, Ben. You should have played that.
Sorry, I wasn't quick enough on that. Well, Sam, this is unbelievable. We're only 3 questions in, and you cannot lose already at 3-0.
Big day.
What number would you like?
I'll have 3.
Number 3. How many podiums did Sebastian Vettel have in his career?
A lot. Is it
Lower?
More? I don't know why I'm that bothered because I've got a draw in the bag, which for me is a win. 97.
It's not 97. Higher or lower than that, Harry?
Higher.
It is higher. 122.
Oh, that's all right.
This is going to be 3-0 back to 3-all.
That's fine. I can't lose. I'm all right.
We're at 3-1. Harry, what number would you like?
What's left, Ben?
4 or 5?
4, please.
I love Harry's uncertainty about the numbers every time we play a game.
Honestly, I get sweaty about it. It's stressing me out.
How many points did Nino Farina get in his first ever World Championship season?
You could do it, Harry. You know, getting a free like the back of your hand.
27.
Did not have 27. Sam, higher or lower?
I'm going to go lower.
No, it's not lower.
Oh, poo. 3.
It's higher. 27 was a good guess, though. 30
That's
points.
the second 27 answer as well at this show.
Yeah, and neither of them have been right.
Good.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a clue on this next one, Sam. The answer's not 27.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, man.
That's one less answer I can think about.
Number 5 or number 5, Sam?
I think I'll go higher at number 5.
Well done. How many teammates did Nick Heidfeld have in his career?
Oh, Harry's going to know this one. He's going to count it out of his head. Harry's going to count it for me on his fingers this time.
I can't even think of it. I've won.
I'm going to go with 9.
It's not 9. It's 27. Higher or lower, Harry?
Higher?
He's had the comeback. It's 3-all.
Hey, well done.
15 teammates, Nick.
15? 15? Your mum still buys your jeans. In between, us get some other reference.
Yeah, good job. There we go. A lovely draw on higher or lower at 3-all.
Gosh, that was a journey.
Woo!
But the journey's not over. There's another segment. And it just so happens to be the greatest segment in all of Formula One podcasting. It is the
LB question of the week.
Okay, this week's question of the week. So after Lando Norris's milestone win at the weekend, we were asking the question, what will be the next first thing that happens in the world of F1? Sam, any answers that you liked?
Yeah, I'm going to go straight in with the big one from Sean Mendoza on Instagram. Gene Haas will hire someone he doesn't know. I love that. I love that now that's become a part of F1 law that he only hires close friends. I also love the next one from Matt Hector, which was first time a driver gets so frustrated with slow pit stops, he jumps out of the car and does it himself. And then in brackets, he puts Bottas. Just so we're aware of who it is that's doing it. Thought those were great starts to the Instagram. So many comments again, though. Ben, any that jumps out here?
Yeah. This one's from Nate. So Mercedes will make a car made of nothing but pumpernickel. Well, that was very good.
Good.
What else have we got? Harry enjoys a sprint race from Tom. I'm not quite sure.
Never.
No, it's not going to happen. There were various comments that were similar to this, but one from Matt, which was 10 kids in a month.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Otmar.
Sure. Of course that was going to happen. Harry?
I was gonna mention the Otmar ones, which are plentiful. I just lost what I was gonna say. Yeah, Ocon from Churchill. Ocon will get along with a teammate. Probably not.
No.
That's never gonna happen. Just try and murder.
Him and Gasly have been doing all right.
They've this year been. I mean, lap 1 in Miami though, he gave it a go.
They tried.
They did try.
Our entertainment. They were
I thought I was at Baku.
That's the thing, though. Ocon, he races other people. Fine. If it's your teammate, he will kill you.
You're in the wall.
He does not care.
I love Ocon. He's so smiley out of the car as well. He's like that, the Kirby with the dagger meme.
Yes.
I feel like he's that.
Another one that talks about incidents is this one from Carl Jan. First counter-terrorism strike in the middle of a Grand Prix to take Magnussen into custody. Needed at this point.
Drew says Barry Manilow is inducted into the LB Hall of Fame.
He might be.
At this rate. At this rate, he might be for no apparent reason.
And if you join the Discord, you get to vote and have a say in who joins the LB Hall of Fame at the end of the year.
Gene Haas wanted to join, but he didn't know anyone. Sarah, the stewards make a 100% correct, non-ridiculous call in a timely manner, which is fitting with what we've discussed today, but I can't see that happening.
Seems unreasonable.
And I have to go over to Twitter to my friend Craig, who has given a great answer, which is there's only one first that matters, and that's the first corner at Spain.
Oh, come on.
You're right, Craig.
Is it still there next year? It is, isn't it? Hasn't gone yet.
Hey, I will be running the track if there isn't any F1 there. I can't lose it.
I would actually like to do a track run. I get quite envious when you see people post their pictures of doing a track run. I'm not even a massive runner. I just think it's cool to run around a racetrack.
Would you go around pretending you had a steering wheel?
Probably.
Yeah.
I am that big a child, to be honest. I would like actually to sit in a little cart and bang, you can push me while I make the noises.
In fairness, with pretending you're in a car, that is 50% of what we did at COTA.
Yes, we sat there in a pickup truck going around and we all went pretending to be much faster. I forgot that we got driven around COTA in a pickup truck. That's cool as well.
Well, Harry wasn't. He was late.
Obviously.
Any final answers?
No, obviously there were so many good ones, but Otmar is naming his first child Jean-Pierre Jabouille according to Bristol Liam, so that is a first.
Jean-Pierre Jabouille the second, yeah. We'll of course be back with another question of the week this time next week. But for now, at least, Sam, if you wouldn't mind getting us out of here. Folks, thanks for listening. If you want more content, we've just recorded our power rankings, and there were some disagreements in the rankings over what happened in Miami. Someone got a 10, and someone did not give that individual a 10. So, go and subscribe, find out who it was that got the big numbers and who thought it shouldn't have been a top score. We've got loads of other content as well coming up there. I'm really proud of it. Anything that gets spent on there from you guys supports us massively. So thank you. Discord, go and join it. You can get involved in every race weekend, all the chit chat. We do loads of stuff in there as well. We just chat with you guys and have a lovely time. Follow us on social media, Late Breaking F1 everywhere, or you can watch this on YouTube, Late Breaking F1 as well. We appreciate everyone that subscribes, likes, comments, engages with us over there. Thanks all very much. I think that's everything. We'll be back on Sunday for a non-race weekend. We're going to be grading the teams and seeing how they've started their season. So tune into that one. In the meantime, I've been Samuel Sage. I've been Ben Hocking.
I've been Tom Gaymore.
And remember, keep breaking late.
You're coming in the ad break.